Guess that would be helpful. Welcome, my friends, to Conspiracy or Conspiracy. We talk about the deep state, things that go bump in the night, the Illuminati, secret societies, and strange deaths. So tonight, we're going to talk about the strange death of Gary DeVore. And I've been doing some screenwriting, and of course, those of you out there that watch me, you know that I'm currently working on Conspiracy Guy Chronicles, which is an animated series where my main character is into conspiracies and uncovers conspiracies and gets involved in conspiracies. And so, crafting this, one of the things, I am a conspiracy buff, so of course I go down the rabbit hole. And I was just watching Jay Dyer's channel, and I came across this story about this guy Gary DeVore, and he died in 1997, we believe. He went missing in 1997, and it's just one of those strange Hollywood tales. So let's go ahead and learn a little bit about the circumstances surrounding his alleged demise. So here's what Find a Grave has to say about him. Oops. Okay. This is him, Gary Martin DeVore, born September 17th, 1941, in Los Angeles, died June 28th, 1997, allegedly. Screenwriter and producer for films and television. His credits include The Dogs of War, Backroads, Heart of Steel, TV movie, 1983. Also executive producer, Raw Deal, Running Scared, Traxx, Pentathlon. On the night of June 27th, 28th, 1997, he was driving his 1997 Eddie Bauer Edition Ford Explorer, returning to his home in Carpinteria, Santa Barbara County, California, after completing a screenwriting job in Santa Fe, New Mexico. After calling his wife by cell phone at about 1:15 a.m. outside of Barstow, he was not heard from again. He remained missing for over a year. Subsequent intensive ground and air searches failed to turn anything up. Wanted poster, newspaper articles, and an airing of a segment of America's Most Wanted failed to produce any clues as to his disappearance. Over a year later, on July 8th, 1998, research from an amateur sleuth who retraced DeVore's last known route led authorities to his vehicle. The Explorer was found submerged in 12 to 15 feet of water in the California Aqueduct near Palmdale. With his body still behind the wheel, seatbelt on. Members of the California Highway Patrol investigation concluded that DeVore, disoriented from a dozen hours on the road in the latter part of a 900-odd-mile trip, was driving the wrong direction on the Antelope Valley Freeway. CHP theorized that DeVore had stopped to rest, then entered a freeway off-ramp instead of an on-ramp. Driving at about 70, he cleared an unfenced embankment along the aqueduct, went airborne, and plunged into the middle of the channel. Coroner's investigations were unable to determine the cause of death due to the body being in an advanced state of decomposition after being submerged for so long. His death was ruled accidental, with no indication of foul play. Wrong. Gary DeVore was survived by his wife, Wendy Oates DeVore, father, David DeVore, sister, Judy Parrish, Jennifer Kaplan, nephew, Brad Cohen, and stepdaughter, Brittany Oates. So that's the official story. His wife does not believe that, and there's this great documentary, but let me say hello to the chat first. Hail to Helium29. Welcome, my friend. Hail Philip Gaming. Good to see you, my friend. Mikhail, welcome again. Just got off stream with Mikhail over on Bear's channel. Hail Wookiee Supremacy. This man cannot be silenced, commie fucks. That's right. You cannot silence me. I'm just going to create more channels, and if I have to spend like the $70 to get an LLC on LegalZoom, fuck it, I'll do it. Phil says, Raw Deal was an enjoyable film. God, it's been so long since I've seen it. So here's the thing about Gary DeVore. He apparently had some connections with the CIA, and he was writing a screenplay, a fictionalized version of the invasion of Panama during George H.W. Bush's presidency. And he had some early drafts, and he was apparently struggling with writing the screenplay and doing the third act. So, it's just interesting because being in this writing process and writing about conspiratorial stuff, I kind of really identified with Gary DeVore quite a bit. And so it's really, and especially in writing the Conspiracy Guy Chronicles, and, I know some of you are my patrons and you've seen me, one of the things that I'm working on actually is, right when I came across the story, was writing about Conspiracy Guy escaping from Las Vegas, driving to Los Angeles, and driving that exact stretch of road that Gary DeVore was found dead on while he was investigating a government conspiracy. It's just like such a random coincidence. Howdy, Keck 44. Good to see you, my friend. And so, yes, sir, Wookie. That is correct. So basically, he was his screenplay career was ascended. He had these connections with the CIA, and so he was writing the story about the invasion of Panama, and nobody could figure out. And so in this documentary, they're interviewing his wife, who does not believe the story at all because he was found with a seatbelt on, and he had a very distinctive deformity in his pinky where it jutted off to the left. So she said he never wore, he was found with a seatbelt on, and she said he never wears a seatbelt. That's very unlike him to wear a seatbelt. And then she said, they found him and his hands were missing. So supposedly the hands they found skeletal hands in the back of his SUV, but they're not his hands. They did an analysis of the bones, and they're old Indian burial bones. And so there's just so much strange stuff about this story. So he was working on the screenplay. He had a very strange phone call with her at 1:15 in the morning where she said, "Hey, he's just going on an adrenaline." And, I recently drove that stretch of highway. Well, I drove north of that stretch of highway, but the Pacific Southwest is absolutely gorgeous. That drive isn't long at all. That drive is beautiful. And, I drove to Texas through there. It's just not a stretch of highway that really lends itself to getting fatigue. It's just far too beautiful. And I'd been on the road a lot longer than he was when he drove past it. But it's just a weird, odd coincidence, that having to come across this guy's story. So he was driving, and he said, "I'm running on pure adrenaline," and that was the last she ever heard of him. And she kept asking, and people from the CIA were calling, and she got knocks on the door from the FBI and different alphabet agencies, and supposedly they're contractors. And so she was like, they're saying he's dead, and she's like, "No, I'm not going to believe he's dead until there's a body," because they're trying to get her to stop. And then that's when they found his body in a place where they had already searched a year later. It took a year for them to find the body. And it's just like nothing about that story makes a lot of sense. So they're going through and they're interviewing these different people, and there's only one person that they interviewed that knew exactly what it was that he was covering. And so here's what they found. Here's what his CIA person told him. And I don't know if any of you are familiar with the Tatum Chronicles, Chip Tatum, who claims to have been a former CIA person. but he talks a lot about this, and I wonder if that was not the CIA person he was talking to. But so here's what his story was going to be about. It's going to be about Panama, the invasion of Panama, and apparently in his screenplay, his fiction, the real reason for invading Panama was because Noriega had a honey trap, and he was apparently drugging high U.S. officials and getting them in compromising positions with underage persons, very underage persons, we'll say, in addition to like bestiality and very strange stuff, and like necrophilia, just like bizarre shit. And apparently in his screenplay, the real reason we went into Panama was to get our hands on that stuff. And it's interesting because I believe when George H.W. Bush was vice president, and when he was CIA director, he had been down there, but I could be wrong. So that is kind of the conspiracy, or that's what his screenplay was about. Only one person talked about it, and I'm telling you. So we seem to be. That seems to be the thing that really gets people, knocked off, is when they start getting into, that kind of stuff. Well, what's interesting, and the documentary didn't quite address it, but I watched the Tatum Chronicles, which was the ex-CIA guy that they're after that dude. You should let me see if I can find something on him. But he But he was talking about how one of the things that we used to do was they would use this stuff called devil's breath, scopolamine, and I believe it's called the zombie drug. And what that does is what that does is apparently the person, it's like a hypnosis drug. It turns it, the person becomes, will basically do whatever you tell them to do, and they will have absolutely no memory of it. So what they believe, what it seems to be implied when he's talking about drugging high officials, CIA officials, FBI officials, DEA officials, possibly Congress people. What he would do is he would get them under the influence of one of the stories that Chip Tatum relayed, was that we had somebody that we wanted to get, that the CIA had somebody they wanted to get, that they wanted to get to cooperate. So what they did was they gave him this devil's breath, the scopolamine, and they had him get fucked by a transsexual hooker. And then they had him murder the transsexual hooker and cannibalize the hooker, and they got it all on camera. So, I mean, this is the kind of stuff that our government is involved in and other governments are involved in. It's pretty crazy, actually. And so, what do you, I just want to say right now, if anybody has any weird shit like that, don't send it to me. I don't want it. Don't send it to me. This kind of stuff keeps coming up, and we've talked about it on Ponce de Leon's Dark Passenger, the pizza party goer folks. And then you have things like the Franklin cover up, which, you have the exploitation of minors, and the adrenochrome, I guess, conspiracy. This stuff seems to keep popping up, doesn't it? Epstein, the underage, and these honey traps. And so, I just kind of wonder sometimes if that's what Michael Hastings was working on, because this seems to be something that they kill over. For whatever reason, they seem to really be into killing over sex scandals. Yeah, the Boys Town cover-up. Yep. Yeah, conspiracy fact indeed, Wookie. So I would like to know what Michael Hastings was after. And because he said it was the biggest story of his life. So something like that would be a pretty big story. That we went into Panama for that reason. Because I mean, honestly, I mean, the Panama invasion just didn't make a whole lot of sense to me. I mean, Noriega was Bush's business partner. But it must be something pretty serious to I mean, nobody thinks apparently there was a lot of money laundering happening in Panama as well. So it's very interesting just how dirty our leaders are. I mean, really dirty. But yeah, this documentary. So yeah, I think here's a scene from it. Let's check it out. Hail Parrothead, welcome, my friend.
What do you mean? I know what Gary knew. The dictator of Panama, Manuel Noriega, made secret recordings in wired rooms of senior US officials having sex with underage prostitutes, male and female. One British newspaper commented on this, and the story was then buried. And the guy who wrote it got shot by an anonymous sniper. No one else picked up the story. I think I'm the only person who ever even has seen that newspaper article. I got it from the British Library.
Crazy stuff, right? Yeah, that was going to be his directorial debut too, was that screenplay. Yep, there is a pattern to these things. Helium 29 says it'd be interesting to see what movies around Panama or documentaries around that time. Yeah. Oh, okay. Yeah. You're thinking of Red Heat, a better film. Raw Deal has Arnold playing an American undercover cop. Okay. Gotcha. So, yep, at the very end, it's funny, at the very end of this documentary, they come across this crazy fucking CIA guy that tells them to stay off the story. So at the end of the documentary, let me see here. This is I don't know if they're doing this for comedic effect or if he's serious. So he did this at the end of the interview, and again, I'm not sure if it's done for comedic effect or if he's being serious, but whoops.
What have you been doing since I last saw you? Because
Okay, I think we got it now. Do we have sound? Watch this.
Oh, because I like to do the interview like this.
What have you been doing since I last saw you?
Well, I've just been living a normal life, really. Just enjoying my life.
And has anything happened with the case?
Well, I do have a clear statement about the case, which is why I wanted to go on camera for this last time, which is to say that Gary DeVore did not die in a car accident in 1997. He was not the victim of a car accident.
How do you know this?
And that really is all I have to say, and all I will ever say publicly about this investigation or about this case.
How do you know this?
It's become very clear.
Why are you dressed up as a clown?
Well, look, let me put it like this. I want people to consider the possibility that this film that we have made is just a piece of entertainment. The reason I asked you to come back here today is that I want to destroy my credibility in this film, on this project, and about anything to do with Gary DeVore.
Right? How crazy is that? So that was the guy that did the whole documentary, was going down this rabbit hole of looking up Gary DeVore, his death, investigating into it, and they couldn't find him for a while. The editor had to cut it all together, and they were asking for a final piece for him to contribute, and that was his last contribution, allegedly. I don't know. Do you think he was trying to destroy his credibility because he was scared? Or do you think that it was just being done for dramatic and comedic effect? It's quite interesting. Yes. God, what sucks is that I really love that drive. That drive from Las Vegas to that stretch of road right before Barstow. That is such a nice drive. I love that drive. Yeah. What if what he is wearing is more of a clue? That is actually something I hadn't considered to Helium 29, and it could be possible. Kale says, or did someone get to him? Possibly. It is hard to tell these days, but the documentary is excellent, and I'm surprised any of those people. I'm surprised the people that cooperated and went on camera actually went on camera. So, I mean, there's a couple of things happening here. The movie, the screenplay that he was writing, by the way, the guy that uncovers the story, it was called The Big Steal. It was supposed to be a remake of a 1949 film, brought in the modern age. But it's about a guy that discovers this government conspiracy and then disappears and changes his identity. Which, again, writing the Conspiracy Guy Chronicles, it's just so weird to come across a screenwriter that ended up deceased like this, especially what, I was just doing the outline the other day about Conspiracy Guy escaping Las Vegas and heading into Los Angeles, and I was mulling the idea of having like a weird Corvette Summer-esque type confrontation he had to escape from in order to get there. It's just so bizarre that this happened at the same time. But he had a very distinctive feature again on his pinky finger. It was bent, and he was missing his hands, and they still ruled it an accident, even though his corpse was missing its hands. Allegedly, the dental work didn't match up. The person in the SUV had bridge work, and Gary DeVore allegedly didn't have any bridge work. So that's the question. Is he dead, or did he assume a different identity? Conspiracy or conspiracy? I mean, it's just shit like this is fucking fascinating. I've got to find a way to work something like this into Conspiracy Guy Chronicles. Uh-oh, spinny thing? My spinny thinging? That's weird. See, my internet's acting weird. I don't think StreamYards likes conspiracy very much. But it's just fascinating. It's just fascinating stuff. Hail Toxic Man Flu, welcome, my friend. Hail TWTG Content, welcome, my friend. No buffering, okay, seem okay. It just must be on my end then. West Beard's really coming in. Yeah. But yeah, I mean the Tatum files, holy shit. Let me see if I can. I think most of it got wiped off of YouTube. That's not the kind of stuff that that's not the kind of stuff that you want to if your YouTube wants to leave up there. TWTG contacts us, sporting the lumberjack beard look. Hey, yeah, I probably could use a trim. I think CC's beard now is probably how I want my beard to look when it grows out. Once again, CC usually has pretty good taste with that. Or, has good advice for that stuff, like the beard oil and the beard balm. That's good advice. Okay, yeah, restream, interesting. It's a good idea. Oh God, a lot of his stuff got scrubbed. But yeah, Chip Tatum was really into Iran-Contra stuff. Apparently they wanted him to kill an American and he wouldn't do it or something like that. We should do a show on pretty much anything connected with the Bushes is bad news. Or says, beard's looking good. Just don't let your barber trim it. Yeah, I'm not going to do that. Tehillim29 says, the net remembers everything. Yeah. He talks about Barry Seal and, all kinds of stuff. Oh, okay. This is pretty interesting. Here, I'm gonna go ahead and post the link to the Tatum Chronicles. Yeah. Here, I'll share this article with you. As soon as I can get the share to work. Toxic Man Flu says, I'm glad the UK, which started this COVID shit show, have decided it's over. Just like that. They were told it was over by some cabal or alien overlords. Yeah. Very strange. RR says, anything with the Bushes. Yeah, it's dirty business. Yep. So, yeah, he talks about the cocaine train. During 1983, CIA Director William Colby established the contact again, advising Tatum he would be contacted by, quote, a man named North. This, as Tatum was to discover later, was none other than Lieutenant Colonel Oliver North, the central architect of America's Nicaraguan Contra campaign. Besides fighting a covert war, North was also the link man in much, much dirtier work. The Contragate years seemed to teem with well-documented accounts of illicit wholesale gun running and dope smuggling. The expose series published in autumn 1996 by the San Jose Mercury Post, entitled The Dark Alliance, openly finger points at the CIA and the Reagan administration for turning a blind eye to massive cocaine smuggling. Moreover, the series of articles claims that the explosion of the crack cocaine epidemic in Los Angeles resulted entirely from the Contra leaders, dope peddlers, who made vast personal fortunes from their activities. Today, the official argument remains that the Contras were, quote, freelancing without the knowledge or consent of their CIA handlers or North's so-called enterprise. Despite these assertions, mountains of hard evidence point in a different direction. Included in this evidence is an entry from North's own diary, which shows his knowledge of the cocaine shipments. In stark contrast to these denials, Tatum says that North's enterprise not only set up the cocaine factories and ran the Colombian cartels, was also responsible for masterminding the massive shipments of narcotics into the U.S. Significantly, he is not alone in making these accusations. A number of those involved in Colonel North's operations have subsequently come forward and spilled the beans. Almost all of these whistleblowers have been hounded and imprisoned. Some have died, whilst others have fled. The whole Contra thing, Tatum states, was also being used by an extremely covert group called Pegasus. It's an episode of Star Trek, the Next Generation, right? R says Bush was running that shit. Yup. Hail, Brutal Morningwood. Welcome, my friend. I'm with TMF on that one. I still posit this whole jab thing is either Manchurian candidate OMAC nanites or tenderizer to make us taste better. I do feel like we're definitely being experimented on in some weird way. Sorry, I had to sneeze. During February of 1985, Tatum was piloting dust-off medevac flights for the U.S. Army's 498th Medical Company stationed at Fort Stewart, Georgia. 2 flight crews, including Tatum's, were transferred to Palmarola Air Force Base, Honduras. Each flight consisted of a pilot, a co-pilot, medic, and crew chief. Once familiarized, they assumed the medevac mission for the Joint Task Force Bravo. Previously, in 1984, Tatum infiltrated the 498th on the instructions of Colonel North, who had established contact under the code name Jake. North had control of the 160th Air Wing and was deeply involved with the tactical planning of Black Ops missions with the Grenada mission. On February 26, Tatum and his crew were instructed by 2 individuals to one of the larger Contra camps on the Honduran border. His flight log lists the names of 2 individuals, Bill Cooper and Buzz Sawyer, both of whom worked for Corporate Air Services. CIA front, right? Following a meeting between the CIA agents and Contra leaders, Tatum was given a sealed cooler marked vaccine, weighing approximately 200 pounds, and instructed to deliver it to U.S. Air Force C-130 transport plane at La Mesa Airport, Honduras. 2 crew members offloading the cooler accidentally dropped it, breaking the seal. Inside were over 100 bags of cocaine. Tatum resealed the cooler later and watched as it was transferred aboard the C-130 outward bound for Panama. God. The whole incident struck Tatum as odd and reminded him strongly of an earlier mission dating back to 83-84 when he was stationed at Fort Campbell, Kentucky. Regularly, he would transship white coolers marked as medical supplies to Little Rock Air Force Base, Arkansas. Who was in charge of Arkansas at that time? On 2 occasions, he carried similar coolers to Mena Airport, Arkansas. Deliveries of medical coolers to Little Rock Air Force Base were picked up by Dan Lassiter, a close confidant of then Arkansas Governor Bill Clinton. So he logged all of his stuff, and he has all this stuff, probably more stuff than even he publicly has admitted to. Yeah, I saw that thing on Saki. Well, he didn't pack a very good he didn't pick a very good puppet, did he? Boss hog list. One of the most flamboyant, and he talks about Barry Seal here. Tatum would soon get to meet Barry Seal and become close friends. Tatum recalls being present during a meeting between Oliver North, Felix Rodriguez, Miriam Neer, and General Alvarez from Honduras, when North stated that Vice President Bush was going to have his son Jeb arrange, quote, something out of Colombia. The conversation focused on Seal's increasingly notorious activities. When Tatum later heard Seal died, he immediately understood who was behind the killing. The discussion also made it clear that VP Bush, Governor Clinton, and his 3 respective handlers were knee-deep in the cocaine venture and making fistloads of money. God, these people are scum. Unknown to all those present, Seal had earlier provided Tatum with a list of names of those high-level government officials deeply involved with or responsible for controlling the narcotics business. Seal called them the Boss Hogs. Tatum has kept this list a tightly held secret until recent. This was probably published a long time ago. The list cites the surnames only and is reproduced above, as I received it complete with misspellings as written, appended their full names and titles in brackets. William Casey, Director of Central Intelligence. Claire Elroy George, head of the CIA's Central American Task Force. Vice President Bush. Dr. Henry Kissinger. Alexander Haig. Wow. Look how corrupt these fuckers are. Donald Gregg, former National Security Advisor to VP Bush. ambassador to Korea, and alleged joint controller of Panama's Manuel Noriega. Interesting. Bill Weld. Remember him? Bill Weld, head of criminal division, U.S. Department of Justice, instrumental in blocking Senate investigations into narcotics, according to testimony of former Senate Special Investigator Jack Bloom. Isn't that interesting that he ended up as Gary Johnson's vice presidential candidate, William Weld? Felix Rodriguez, that's a bad dude. CIA officer with a close connection to VP Bush. Yeah, Felix Rodriguez connects to a lot of stuff. So, yeah, this Pegasus stuff, assassination and neutralization, goes into some pretty crazy stuff. Okay. Here's the story. Here's the story I was looking for. Yeah, Rodriguez was one of Bush's cleanup men. Yeah. 1990, when Nicaraguan leader Daniel Ortega announced there would be free elections, Mr. X was ecstatic. He began jostling for position and asked President Bush to ensure he be given a prominent position in the new government. In return for his years of toil at the behest of the CIA and the Enterprise, pressure came in a form that Bush could not ignore. Failure to help his friend would result in X's intimate knowledge of Bush's involvement in the dope trade being made public. His threat left Bush with a sour taste. A Pegasus team was assigned to neutralize him in 1990. Mr. X, Tatum states, fancied himself a lover of women. Tall, large-breasted blondes were his favorite. It was determined that, if effectively neutralized, could be an asset. Therefore, it was decided that intimidation would be used to control X. They chose to use the drug scopolamine, which also went by the nickname burundanga, or the voodoo drug. The drug is extracted from the pods of a flowering shrub that grows in remote regions of South America. Its processed powdered form, scopolamine, is void of smell, void of taste. When properly administered, it causes absolute obedience, without this being observable by others. Importantly, the target will not recall any of the events that occurred during the period they were under the spell of the drug. Isn't this crazy shit? This is crazy shit, right? Like, I didn't even know this stuff existed. And then I started reading about it, and it's like, oh, man. In outlining these details, Tatum adds that it is important to administer the drug in the correct dosage, for he has known targets to die from too high a dose. Others have remained under the influence of burundanga for up to 3 weeks. Precise dosage can be achieved by liquid ingestion, the powder being readily soluble. Ingestion via cigarettes is also an optimum method of ingestion, as it is fast-acting. It takes no more than 20 minutes to work. Tatum states that X was invited to spend a relaxing weekend at a luxury hotel as a guest of his friend, George Bush. Isn't that sweet? His host for the weekend was a trusted 18-year veteran field intelligence officer. The evening started with cocktails and was followed by a fine meal. Nothing but the best were the orders from George Bush. Following the meal, he was ushered into a suite of a blonde bombshell supplied by the CIA. Mr. X had already ingested a dose of burundanga during the pre-dinner cocktails. X was gallant with the blonde as they both moved into the bedroom where video cameras were already set up in one corner. In short order, the blonde had X standing in front of her and began to indulge his desires. All the while, the video camera's words slowly stripping off the blonde revealed his manhood in all its glory. Mr. X was instructed to reciprocate the favor and perform fellatio. He obliged. His intimate activities recorded at 24 frames a second on videotape. Tatum says the male prostitute was hired from a bar in New York and killed that same evening. 2 weeks later, X, wholly unaware of the events of that evening, was visited in Nicaragua. He was presented with a copy of the video footage along with instructions. Tatum says that X can never allow that video to be seen. Not only does it reveal his homosexuality, but it also reveals his bestiality and satanic worship rituals. As frame after frame flicked by, X reportedly wept, forced to watch himself kill his lover, and then engage in the most grisly cannibalistic ritual imaginable. Neutralized, Mr. X became a leading member of the Nicaraguan government a few short weeks later. RR says the surface world is a sugarcoating. Underneath is a demonic cesspool of psychopaths. You ain't just whistling Dixie, buddy. That's like really evil shit. TMF says, wait, is this trekking on Tuesday porn night? No, unfortunately not. That could make a good plot, though. Yeah, sounds like it, right? Trekkies are weird. Yeah, we are. So yeah, I mean that's the kind of stuff that that we were doing down there, and apparently Noriega was doing the same thing to our people. So it's just this weird Mexican standoff of Burundanga hookers and like satanic rituals. Very weird. I don't know. I don't know how I don't know how effective that could be, because if it leaks out, who's going to believe it? I mean, you already have. And what's funny is that, Pizzagate and the Franklin cover up and just there's all this stuff that says that they do this strange, that they do weird stuff like this. And apparently, yeah, they're willing to kill to cover it up. Oh, is it still on Top Chat? That's weird. Why is it like that? There we go. Huh. So I don't know. What do you guys think? Is Gary DeVore the screenwriter? Is he living out his life in an assumed identity? Is he dead? What do we think? The people that because at the end the clown, the guy dressed as a clown, didn't really give us the definitive answer there, other than that he didn't die in the manner described. Wookie says, "Oh, that's because they do weird stuff like that." Yeah, that's true. So gross. Fucking weirdos. R says, "Hell yeah, they kill for shits and giggles. They're monsters." Yep. Well, not only do they do that, but they do weird. I mean, they like putting people under the influence of a drug like that. That's crazy. I mean, I thought something like that was a wives' tale. I didn't think it actually existed, but apparently it does. Apparently, Vice, back when they were good, they did a documentary on Burundanga, scopolamine, and they interviewed people. Apparently, in Colombia, it's used to rob people. You'll have like some chick or dude at a bar or whatever, and they'll spike your drink with it, and they'll go back and apparently people that know the person, they would see them and they would have a normal conversation with a neighbor or a friend. And then they would just suddenly come out of it and find all their shit missing and their bank account cleaned out. and like the people that they encountered are trying, like, who is that was with you? And it's like, what? It's crazy. Wookie says it gets weirder than that. Yeah, I know it does. R says they're into satanic rituals which require mind-altering drugs. Yep. Yeah, you ain't kidding. It gets much weirder. Oh my God. What evil people. God, what is wrong with these fuckers? When you're walking in darkness like that, I don't like, these are people that I wouldn't want to hang out with at a party. You know what I mean? I mean, people like Chip Tatum would be cool to hang out with because that dude's got a lot of stories. One can hope if we prevail, if we win, and the good people are able to, claw back a little bit of power out of the system, and we end up holding these people accountable. We should have a New World Order museum. We should have a New World Order museum, and like in the very center should be like a very thick plexiglass cage, like Hannibal Lecter had in Silence of the Lambs. And that's where we should keep these people, and they should be studied. They should be studied. People should be able to walk by with their kids and throw rotten fruit at them. Can you imagine Bill Gates in an orange jumpsuit in a four-sided clear plexiglass cage where he has to take a shit in front of, people walking their kids through? That would be hilarious. That's what we need to do with them. We shouldn't. I mean, really, they deserve to be hung or put in front of a firing squad. But imagine being able to study this kind of psychopathy and this kind of weird groupthink. What a great opportunity! And then had to have a public display like that. You could have Klaus Schwab story hour. Instead of tranny story hour, you have Klaus Schwab story hour. You could have Klaus Schwab reading, Mary Had a Little Lamb. Mary had a little lamb. Its fleece was white as snow. Everywhere that Mary went, the lamb would surely go. I think it'd be a great idea. We should do it. Or, Bill Gates reading Little Red Riding Hood or something as he's taking a shit on his toilet in his clear plexiglass cage. Well, I don't know what happened to Gary DeVore. If he's alive, I hope he's living peacefully and safely. And if he's dead, well, may he rest in peace. But I thought we were well overdue for a conspiracy or conspiracy. And I'm happy that we did it. R says, then you get a Fauci studying them and developing ways to spread their psychopathy. Yeah. Well, Fauci, maybe we should cut his vocal cords and have maggots eat his head. Yep, I think that's it for me. Thank you for watching Conspiracy or Conspiracy. If you're new to the channel, I'd be honored if you consider liking the video, sharing the video, and don't forget to ring the bell. And if you did not like what you saw here, well, join the club. Lots of people don't. We will... Where's the fucking outro at? There we go.